It's DansDen! DansDen. Hello everyone, welcome to the first study skills video of this playlist. Now, before we begin, there's three things I'm going to ask you to get, okay? And you can pause the video and go and get them. You'll need something to write with, something to write on, and a glass of water, actually. It's going to be very important here. I've got my water here. That's going to be important. So pause the video, go and get that, come back and press play while I drink. Okay. Now, in all honesty, the glass of water is just so that you stay hydrated. That's just really important during these times. Just make sure you're constantly drinking water. I'm going to do the same. So actually, whenever I take a drink, all right? That's going to be the rule unless you're thirstier than that and you're just like downing water. Just take it to the same measure. Don't drink a glass of water every time I sip mine. That's not a good idea. So the first one is about time and time management. This is vital, not just in terms of school or college, but in our lives. And I'm actually going to start with, first of all, a little reason that I understand that we treat time the way we do. And then a little story after that that goes into how we actually have a lot more control and power over time than we think. So first of all, the reason that I wanted to talk about this was because recently, before we went into isolation, I was actually having a short conversation with a student who was clearly very anxious about getting the answer out straight away. Right? Really making sure as soon as they were asked a question, they kind of got into like hyper mode and they're like, right, what's the answer? What's the answer? What's the answer? And they really wanted to rush to get it. And what was interesting was that they would get the answer correct 90% of the time. But actually, a lot of the time, it was clear that the way that they would process the answer was so rushed that the reason they got it wrong, the other 10%, was either in the working out or, of course, in the answer itself. But it was because they were so desperate to get the answer. After we chatted and we gave them the time, we allowed them to slow down, right? Take a moment. They were right 100% of the time. They actually knew the answer every single time. But that eagerness and that enthusiasm and a little bit of anxiety to get the answer straight away meant that they actually still got the answer wrong. This actually happened to me. It was a entry level 2 mock paper I was doing with a class, and I was just joining in as part of the classroom, and I actually got 2 out of the 15 questions wrong. The reason being I got complacent and I was like, oh, I know the answer, it's easy, and I wrote straight down. I didn't take the time to read the answers and read the question properly, and I didn't take time to process what I was processing properly. So time is really important because it can cost us, well, I'm not even just going to say marks, it just costs us, okay? Now, the reason I believe that we get in a rush is a number of different things. I want to say, first of all, one of the big cultural reasons that we do this is actually, in my opinion, down to radio, down to TV, down to what we see and the way that we consume what we see and hear. I know that my very limited media training tells me that you're not allowed to have any quiet time, right? It's not good, for example, here on YouTube, it's not good for me to sit and take a long pause to think about something. It's not okay, right? So if I go, oh, let me just think about for a second and go quiet. Hang on, I've just got to think. Ooh. In this time, you're probably getting disengaged. You're like, oh, this has got boring really quickly. I need something now. So it's not even just media training, it's actually the way that people watch and consume things. If something slows down or stops, people will be like, oh, this is getting dull, I don't want to engage in this. And without thinking, they'll move on to the next thing. The problem with that is it also is seen in the way that people have debates and the way that people respond to answers or questions, in the media, and then of course in classrooms and everywhere else. We feel this pressure to have to get everything straight away because we don't want silence. And actually what's really bad is the way that we treat silence. Some of you may have seen this or heard this. If someone cannot answer something straight away, then it's assumed they don't know the answer, right? And I've seen this in debates. I've seen it so often. If someone has asked a question and they want to be given the time to think about the right answer, the right way to put it, and so on, it's assumed that they don't know. And that's really harmful because actually using our power of processing is an incredible skill And I think a development point for our minds, if we are not giving it the time to really work to get the right answer and get it out in the right way, we're not really training our brain in the right way. We're just basically saying everything that you are asked has to come straight away. And if you don't get it straight away, you are wrong. And of course, the assumption there is that, you're stupid or you're dumb or you're not intelligent or, you're slow, etc., etc. But actually taking time to think about things is vital, because it's almost like, what is it? It's a saying, this is weird, it's come out of nowhere, but I think about when people are late to work and they say, it's better you're late than you don't arrive at all. And it speaks to this idea of speeding on the road and having an accident, right? It's better that you show up late than you get in an accident from speeding. Right, and I know that's very dramatic. I've suddenly gone, whoa, bang, right out there. But it applies here as well. It's better that you answer the question slowly than not get the marks at all, because that's the risk you're running. And so that's why I wanted to run this. And this is actually why I wanted to do this first, because everything else I do after this really is anchored to this element of taking your time, allowing, and we've got plenty of time now. We've got loads of time now. So really, this would be a great practice, so that when we are all allowed back into college, school, work, etc., etc., we've got this practice of being like, right, give me a sec. You can even say, even if a teacher, your boss, your manager asks you a question, give me a second. Okay, I know this, just give me a moment. Let me think about this for a second. And let them know. It's not that you don't know, it's that you're thinking about the answer. All right? Push back. Because in my work, of course, as a coach, I encourage people to think. In fact, if they come back to me too soon with an answer like, I don't know, or something like that, I'll ask them, think again. Some of you know this. Some of you know this. Think again. Think harder. And I encourage it. Because the answer is there. It's just giving that time and giving yourself the time. Now, in terms of time management, our relationship with time is funny. Now, there's a story. I was doing a workshop down in Gosport, and we got onto this exercise that I love, which I call Possible Impossible, even though technically it should be called Impossible Possible, but we won't go into that. And the idea is one person thinks of an impossible thing, and the person next to them, they hand that to the person next to them, and the person next to them has to make it possible somehow. It's a growth mindset exercise. And someone broke down time travel. How time travel wasn't possible. And I love it when people do this, because it opens up this conversation where, if you think about it, human beings are time traveling all the time. Right? In our minds, we're traveling back in time or forward in time, which is what can produce a lot of anxiety. We could travel back in time, which could produce depression and, like negative thinking and stuff like, oh, this is what happened back then. We're constantly time traveling in our head. Not only that, but when we sleep, for example, when we sleep for 8 hours, in our minds, we haven't actually slept for 8 hours, have we? We're not solidly sleeping for 8 hours in our minds. It lasts 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. That's it. We literally jet ourselves forward in time. And sleep to me has always been a form of time travel. Of course, it's moving forward and going, bang, let's get to the morning, the next day, right? And then, of course, there's this idea of when you're having fun. When you're having fun, time moves faster. When you're not having a good time, time slows down. And we'll play around with that in just a second, okay? But here's another part. Here's another part that I'll introduce to you. If you've ever thought of a moment in your life where you were just so happy, like a favorite bit of music, hanging out with your best friend and having just a moment where you're just laughing your ass off. You don't even know why. You're just laughing for no reason. Maybe you're with a loved one and you're thinking to yourself, man, like I'm so lucky to have this person in my life. It could be a family member. It could be something you're doing. Anything at all. And it's not that time speeds up or slows down. It's actually that time does not exist. And where time does not exist, that is the primary space for our mind where it's at peace, it's under no pressure whatsoever, and it's able to just process without any strain or extra strain or stress or anything like that. Now, that's a great place to be, particularly when it comes to requiring answers for stuff, right? When we want to think about something. And I know that there will be some times where you're asked the question, it is time sensitive. But if we're allowed to find that place where time does not exist and practice finding it, then actually we'll realize that we are able to get to the answer and get it right more often than not. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to write down a selection. Now you're going to copy these down as well, right? We're not going to get to the answers straight away, but I'm going to write these down and you're going to copy them down on your bit of paper. So get your bit of paper ready. Before you get your bit of paper ready, hang on a minute, because my mouth's getting dry, man. I'm talking so much. Stay hydrated, people. So I'm going to write down these, okay? So go with me on this. Now again, remember I did say there's a very large varying ability level here. So just go with what I've put down, all right? And this is not about getting them all correct. So here we go. Copy these down for me. Okay, so here they all are, right? That's all of them there. You see that? I believe you can see that. Yeah. And just copy those down for me. That's all I'm going to ask you to do. All right, just copy those down. In fact, you could pause this and then get those down, because I'll put this down in a second. Right, now then, I am going to give you, on the clock, let's see, how much time do I want to give you for this? I'm going to give you 30 seconds. 30 seconds to get through all of that, okay? So once I started this, you start, okay? And you start writing down the answers and figuring them out, all right? So here we go. When you're ready, I think the alarm should go off, which you should hear. So here we go. Ready? 3, 2, 1. All right, stop. Excellent. Now, some of you, I'm sure, would have got through all of those. No problem. I'm sure you would have made those. Some of you, perhaps, you know, you got to a certain point, you got a little stuck, but that's okay. All right. Now, just let me know, maybe in the comments below, or just say to yourself, how did that feel? Right? How did that feel to you? Did that feel comfortable? Do you feel like you were in a place where your mind was able to just process all of those nice and easy? How much pressure were you under? Like, out of 10, how much pressure were you under? Was it like a 1 where you're like, man, this is fine, I know this really well? Or was it maybe like a 5 where you're kind of like, oh God, I really want to make sure I got it finished, right? I really want to make sure I got it right. Because heaven forbid, in this made up exercise I've got, that I let myself down by not getting these right. So I really want to make sure. Or was it like a 9 where you were concerned that if you didn't get all of these right, or if you didn't even finish them, that the world was going to end? So this is just, and again, this is all I did. All I did was I just put a timer on it. Now, what we're going to do is I'm going to write down a few more. So, hang on. What I'll do is I'm going to come back and we're going to do a different selection. All right, this time I'm going to write them in green and we'll do a different selection of sums, okay? So, let's see. Let's start with this one. Now, what we're going to do, again, it's really important. Don't answer these straight away. Your mind might already be trying to figure this out, but just let your mind just write these down. That's all we're going to do. Okay? Okay, good. Right, there they all are. There they all are. These are all the sums or the multiplications and so on. Gosh, I've just blanked. This is all of the work that we are going to write down. Okay? Now then, this time is slightly different. So pause the video, get all those down. Okay, I'm going to pop that down. Get all those down. This time, there is no time. This time, there is no time. Okay? You're just going to figure this out in as much time as you want. So give yourself pause. Okay? Give yourself just breathing room. See how many of these you can get right. Okay? That's all you've got to do. So when you're ready, pause this video and just go through it. Now, actually, wait. Before I say that, No, that's it. No. We're just, that's all we're going to do. Just leave the timer off. I'm not timing it. Pause the video and get those done. Okay? Okie dokie. Now, how did that second time feel? Again, how much pressure did you feel under? What was the sensations? Did you feel like you were able to process things a lot easier? So again, leave a comment below. Let me know how the second time felt. Okay, because that's what's really important. We're not trying to get everything correct. We're not trying to get it all right here. All we're trying to do is practice that art of giving ourselves time. Because however long it took you to do that, it's not actually a large bracket of time that would have been used for, let's say, studying. It's not a massive amount of time that would have needed to be used, say, if a manager asks you a question. Because actually, here's the funny thing. We can actually come back to things. We can. I'm thinking about it now, and I just thought, well, in an exam, right, or in any study time, you can actually give yourself that time and go, do you know what? I'm going to come back to that. I'm going to come back to that. And the same thing can happen with, again, at work, you know. If your manager asks you a question and you aren't sure or you feel under pressure, you can say, am I allowed to come back to you on this? I can send you an email or I can let you know, but I need some time to think about that. Is that okay? Because that gives you that time to be able to go, let me delete time completely. Let me just pretend that time doesn't exist, and I will be able to get the right answer here. And this is a practice that you can give yourself time and time again. I love how much I'm saying time here. Now, if you wanted to, you could hop onto Google, find a load of maths questions, and practice that. Don't worry about getting them right just yet. We'll get to that later. But just focus on giving yourself the space. When you feel under pressure, actually stop. Just stop, right? Because again, time is not a factor here. Just stop and give yourself that breathing room, because the practice is getting to that place where time does not exist, to free up your mind to actually process what's in front of you. Okay? Now, if you'd like me to go into more detail on anything in this video, then of course, please do send me an email at DansDenYT@gmail.com. That's DansDen. Actually, do you know what? I'm going to do it the other way, because I realized in my video, I need to edit it. So it's DansDenYT@gmail.com. That's DansDenYT@gmail.com. Let me know what other details you want to go into. Let me know any comments you have about this. Of course, comment down below. And otherwise, have a fantastic day. And by all means, forget time. Forget time. It is our acquaintance. We don't need to get to know it so well. Take care, everyone.